Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving straight into a biological reality that affects literally every single one of us: human aging. We're going to tear down some long-held myths and dig into some truly groundbreaking new science that maps out exactly what's going on inside our bodies as the years tick by. Get ready, because what we're about to explore is going to fundamentally change the way you think about growing older.
Let me kick things off with a simple question. Does aging happen gradually, or does it kind of hit you all at once? I mean, most of us grew up with this idea that getting older is just this slow, steady, inescapable slope, right? A gentle decline from your 20s all the way into your 80s and beyond. You get a little more tired, you spot a new gray hair, it's just a slow trickle. But what if I told you that while the passage of time might be linear, your body's reaction to it is absolutely not?
We all kind of operate on this basic assumption of linear aging, a steady, predictable decline. But the reality, the biological reality, is staggered aging. Our bodies actually stagger and lurch. We hit the rapid growth of childhood, cruise through the long plateau of early adulthood, and then, instead of a gentle slope, we hit sudden, massive accelerations in aging. It's not a ramp, guys. It's a biological staircase, and we are taking some sharp, sudden drops.
Which brings us to Section 1, the age 50 inflection point, a major biological shift.
A monumental 2025 study led by scientists from the Chinese Academy of Sciences pinpointed exactly when one of the steepest drops on that staircase happens: 50. 50 is the turning point. Researchers discovered that right around this age, the trajectory of how your tissues and organs age abruptly steepens. It is a massive inflection point. That nice slow plateau of your 30s and early 40s basically shatters, and your internal biology just shifts into an accelerated gear.
Now, to give you some context, previous research from a US team had already started plotting out these staggering steps. They found an aging peak around age 44, where our bodies go through significant molecular changes in how we metabolize lipids, caffeine, and alcohol, plus changes in our skin and muscles. And then, jumping ahead, there's another peak around age 60, bringing shifts in carbohydrate metabolism, immune regulation, and kidney function. But sitting right there in the middle, this new 2025 study highlights the age 50 inflection point, a period of massive, widespread remodeling of the organs themselves. To understand why this middle step is so incredibly dramatic, we really have to look closer.
And that brings us to Section 2, proteins as messengers and building blocks.
The absolute key phrase to understand here is proteomic remodeling. Basically, we're talking about substantial changes in the actual types and levels of proteins inside your tissues as you age. These researchers didn't just look at cells, they looked at the whole body entirely through the lens of proteins. By doing this, they were able to develop tissue-specific proteomic age clocks. Essentially, they tracked these changing protein messengers to build an exact timeline of how and when specific organs start to decline.
You really have to appreciate the sheer, massive scope of how they figured this out. They created a multi-tissue atlas of aging. They collected samples from 76 organ donors who unfortunately passed away from traumatic brain injuries, ranging in age from 14 all the way up to 68. We're talking about a staggering 516 tissue samples analyzed across 7 major body systems: the cardiovascular system, the digestive system, immune and endocrine systems, respiratory, musculoskeletal, and even the integumentary system, which is your skin. They cataloged the proteins in all of these systems, carefully noting exactly how those protein levels shifted as the donor's ages increased.
Okay, so what did they actually find in that massive amount of data? Well, alongside plenty of normal proteins just doing basic biological housekeeping, they cross-referenced everything with disease databases and spotted a huge red flag. The expression of 48 specific disease-related proteins significantly increases as we age. And these aren't just harmless byproducts, right? These 48 proteins are heavily associated with things like cardiovascular conditions, tissue fibrosis, fatty liver disease, and even liver-related tumors. And the starkest, most dramatic surge of these proteins, it happens right between the ages of 45 and 55.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, the vulnerable system, cardiovascular aging.
So, knowing this massive shift hits around 50, which organ actually fails the fastest when those 48 proteins spike? The answer is incredibly striking. It's the aorta. Out of all the tissues analyzed, your blood vessels are the most markedly susceptible to aging. The aorta showed the most significant proteomic remodeling of all. Your veins are literally among the fastest things in your body to decline. Following closely behind were the spleen, which is part of your immune system, and the pancreas, which handles the enzymes and hormones for breaking down food. These organs undergo just immense, sustained changes right at that age 50 mark. Now, this led to an absolutely fascinating laboratory experiment. The researchers had to prove that these proteins weren't just showing up alongside aging, but were actually causing it. So they ran a mouse model proof. Step 1, isolate these specific aging-associated proteins directly from the aortas of older mice. Step 2, inject those exact proteins into young, perfectly healthy mice. And Step 3, sit back and observe the subjects for any signs of physical decline.
The results were honestly an empirical plot twist. The young mice, once injected with the older proteins, immediately started showing the physical declines of old age. No way, right? But it's true. They showed reduced physical performance, lowered endurance, and significantly reduced balance and coordination. They even displayed prominent markers of vascular aging. And super interestingly, they showed decreased grip strength, which, by the way, perfectly mirrors 2024 research from Finland showing how human hand grip strength is a major indicator of how well we manage age-related diseases. Basically, this experiment proved these proteins are active drivers of the aging process.
So, let's zoom back out for Section 4, the future of anti-aging and targeted interventions. Because this isn't just a story about decline.
I want you to consider this quote from the researchers published in the journal Cell. These insights may facilitate the development of targeted interventions for aging and age-related diseases, paving the way to improve the health of older adults. Think about that. This multi-tissue atlas they built, tracking 50 years of human aging, isn't some grim countdown clock. It's an incredibly detailed, hopeful roadmap. Because we now know exactly which parts of the body fail, when they fail, and exactly which 48 proteins are responsible, modern medicine has a precise target. We can actually develop highly specific interventions to block those proteins, ease that age 50 transition, and keep our cardiovascular systems healthier for way longer. Which leaves us with this final thought. We really don't have to view aging as this mysterious, unavoidable slope anymore. It's a complex, stepwise process involving specific systems at very specific times. If science can now map the exact biological staircase of aging, isolating the precise proteins that cause our bodies to lurch downward at age 50, how will these targeted interventions rewrite your own health span in the decades to come? It is an absolutely incredible time for human biology. Thank you so much for exploring this with me today on The Explainer.